Assalamu alaikum. Students, we are going to start our second year biology course, and we are going to start with the first chapter, that is chapter number 14, with the first topic, introduction and properties of respiratory surface. Okay? This question is very important as far as the board is concerned. It can be asked in a board, and the MCQs from this topic are also very important, as they can also be asked. Okay? So be careful and be attentive as well. So first of all, what is respiration? Respiration is actually the breakdown of food to yield energy. Here we use the term breakdown of food to yield energy. Usually we can say that we misconcept this definition with the oxidation of food to yield energy. This is totally wrong, because the oxidation of food to yield energy is aerobic respiration. Okay, but if we generally talk about the respiration, then we would say that the breakdown of the food to yield energy is called respiration. Okay, that can be aerobic, that can be anaerobic, in which we can use the term oxidation or without oxygen. Okay, so then comes the types of respiration. As far as these types are concerned, we have divided the type of respiration on three categories. The first is based on occurrence, second based on availability of oxygen, and third based on the environment, in which environment is taking place. Okay, so the first is occurrence. Occurrence mean where it is occurring inside the body. Okay, if it is occurring inside the body cells, then we will call as internal respiration. But if it is occurring between the body fluid and the outer environment, then it is called as external respiration. Okay, so for internal respiration, in case of human beings, we have glucose which will react with the oxygen and produces the ATP and carbon dioxide. Okay, now this production of ATP is actually respiration. Okay, and along with ATP, when the carbon dioxide is produced, it will be given off from the body, and for the oxidation of this glucose, oxygen is taken into the body, and this gaining of oxygen and releasing of carbon dioxide is called breathing, which is the external respiration. Okay, so we have divided the respiration into internal or cellular based on occurrence in the body, and external or breathing, which is just the exchange of gases. Okay, then we have the based on availability of oxygen. If the oxygen is available, as in case of human being, we are aerobes and we need to break down the oxygen, we need to break down the glucose, and for that oxygen is needed. If the organism require oxygen for the breakdown of glucose, then it is called aerobic respiration, and almost all the eukaryotes on the earth are aerobes. While in case of anaerobic respiration, it does not require oxygen, and many of the prokaryotes carry out this process. Okay, so in anaerobic respiration, glucose is broken down by a process glycolysis, as you have read in chapter 4 in first year, and then that will broken down further into either lactic acid or into ethanol and carbon dioxide by fermentation. Okay, but as far as human are concerned, anaerobic respiration also carry out in their body in case of strenuous exercises, when we need to have more energy in less availability of oxygen. Then our muscle cells carry out fermentation, and that is the lactic acid fermentation, in which the lactic acid and energy is produced, and that energy will be carried out for the contraction by the skeletal muscles. Okay, then comes the types based on the environment. So based on environment, we have two types of external respiration, actually, the tidal external respiration and continuous. Okay, if we need air and to replace the gases or to exchange the gases, then it is called tidal. But if the organism is in aquatic environment and could not breathe or could not exchange the air, then it needs to take in diffuse oxygen and release diffuse carbon dioxide. So the continuous movement of diffused oxygen into the body by means of skin and out of the carbon dioxide, diffuse carbon dioxide out of the skin, is called continuous respiration. ठीक है? So this is the journal introduction given in your book. ठीक है? Then comes the first topic, that is the properties of respiratory surface. Now first of all, what is respiratory surface? Why it is important? And what are the properties which make it actually the respiratory surface? Okay? So the respiratory surface is the area with which the gaseous exchange actually take place. The area with which the gaseous exchange actually take place means that हमारी बॉडी में कोई ऐसा एरिया होगा जिसको हम प्रॉपरली रेस्पिरेटरी सरफेस बोलेंगे. और क्यों बोलेंगे? क्योंकि दिस इज दैट एरिया वेयर द gaseous exchange is occurring. ठीक है? So what are the requirements for anything to be a proper respiratory surface? So it means it must possess some properties, and these properties are 5 are given in your book. I have mentioned 9, so please mention them all in your question. Okay? The first is mechanism of ventilation. Ventilation, as we know that ventilators are present in our rooms, in our houses for the exchange of air. So in the same way, the mechanism of ventilation mean that the flow of oxygen to replace the carbon dioxide. It means we should have a proper system in which the oxygen is carrying out towards the lungs and the carbon dioxide is exhaled from the lungs. ठीक है? And that ventilation can be continuous and tidal, as I have already discussed. Then this good ventilation, if the ventilation is good, if we have enough oxygen and enough carbon dioxide, then proper gradient concentration medium is created which will help in the diffusion and good respiration can be carried out. ठीक है? Then comes the pulmonary surfactants. In pulmonary surfactants are the detergent like molecules on the inner lining of alveolus. If we have this alveoli and on the inner lining of this alveoli we have some lipoprotein molecules which are called pulmonary surfactants. And now why these pulmonary surfactants are important and why they are present over the surface? So it is important because they reduces the surface tension on the surface of the alveoli. If the surface tension is reduced, the intermolecular forces between the two alveoli get reduced, so they prevent the collision among them. ठीक है? So to prevent the collision, surface tension must be reduced, and that is done by the pulmonary surfactants. And then it also have some defensive role, that is it kills microorganisms. ठीक है? As they are called detergents, so detergent means to sweep out, so they also kill the microorganisms. Then comes the third property, that is respiratory pigment. It is not provided with the respiratory surface directly but by means of blood. Means that if the respiratory surface is not provided with the blood and then in the blood with the respiratory pigments, then easy diffusion of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide could not be taken place. So for that, hemoglobin and myoglobin are those respiratory pigments which are present inside the human body. ठीक है? Hemoglobin can bind with the oxygen as well as with the carbon dioxide. If it binds with the oxygen and to transport oxygen, then it is called oxyhemoglobin. And if it binds with the carbon dioxide, then it is called carb aminohemoglobin, and both of them are needed for the easy and proper movement of the gases. Okay? And myoglobin, it stores oxygen in muscles. It does not transport, but it stores oxygen in muscles. Okay? Then the fourth property, that is the thin wall. The surface of the respiratory surface must be thin. अब जो respiratory surface है, that can be skin, as we have discussed the continuous respiration. ठीक है? It can be lungs, it can be gills, it can be alveoli. So in lungs we have alveoli, and the surface of the alveoli must be thin. यानी उसकी membrane की thickness ज़्यादा नहीं होनी चाहिए. If it would be thick, then there would be hindrance between the exchange of gases. So it is only 1 micrometer thick, and this 1 micrometer can easily facilitate the diffusion of gases. ठीक है? Then the surface area. if the molecule or if the surface is gaining much area, then it means कि उसकी proper diffusion नहीं हो सकती है. So इसका surface area large होना चाहिए. जैसे हमने पढ़ा था कि small intestine के अंदर villi होते हैं, and villi increases the surface area for the maximum absorption of the food. Like here we have alveoli, and these alveoli are 700 million in lungs, which gives the area of 70 meters square. If we have 70 meters square area for exchange of gases, it means we have ample of respiratory surface with which the gases exchange could easily take place. Okay? So all of these properties actually directly helps the respiratory surface to exchange the gases. Then come the moist surface. In first year we have discussed the role of phospholipids, in which we have said that the phospholipids are present on the membrane surface, and on the membrane surface the oxygen in the negatively charged form makes the hydrogen bond with the nearby water molecules, and this attraction of the water molecule toward the phospholipids in the plasma membrane create the moistening of the surface, and the moistening of the surface is important because the easy diffusion can take place. Okay? So for easy diffusion, surface is moist, and the surface of the cell membrane, surface of the alveoli is moist due to the presence of phospholipid, and this phospholipid makes a hydrogen bond with the nearby water molecules. Okay? Then comes the blood supply. If all these properties are present, but if the blood supply is not provided, means it has large surface area, it is thin, but how it would transport the gases toward the body parts, then we must have the blood supply. So in case of gills, in case of even skin and alveoli, the surface is provided with the blood capillaries. As in case of human beings, we know that a deoxygenated blood from the heart is provided to the lungs by means of pulmonary artery, in which the carbon dioxide is present, and from the lung pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood. So it means the carbon dioxide is given off in the lungs and oxygen is taken in, and that is done through the blood capillaries, as blood capillaries help in the transport of gases or exchange of material. Okay? Then comes the permeability. If the surface is not permeable, means if it does not allow anything to pass in and pass out, then surface could not be efficient in diffusion. So here the extrinsic G coupled proteins on the plasma membrane are the transmembrane protein receptors, and the permeases on the plasma membrane help to increase the permeability of the plasma membrane, okay, of alveoli or of respiratory surface. And last and very important is when we have to exchange the gases between the surface, okay, or the body fluid and the environment. So for that we have a proper coordination between the body and the brain, and for that we must have some receptors on the respiratory surface which tells us when we have to exchange the gases, when we have to take in the oxygen, and when we have to give off the carbon dioxide. So for that on the pulmonary surface we have pulmonary receptors which are stretch receptors and the chemoreceptors, which actually detect the level of carbon dioxide and the oxygen and send the signal to the brain for the proper inspiration and expiration. Okay? So that's all for your topic. It's very important for the board, and the MCQs given in the ICA book are also very easy. You can easily do it if you have the clear concept of it. Okay? So have a nice time. Allah Hafiz.